Now there's much more that you can learn from this, but it would be great if we had someone who got that notification that has not shared with me before, and you want to share one that might be a little different. Anybody?
I would love to share.
Okay, great.
All right.
So sexual 478, is that ENFP? Is that what you identified with?
So I just took your test just now, and I got 471, which is a little confusing. But I did originally get 748, but I generally speaking identify with 4. So
go back to the top.
Sure.
It's really good to do it in order, one after another when you're learning. Let's go with the banner first. But actually it doesn't show that. Oh, it did. You did get that message. Okay, so begin at the top banner. So 471. So it's saying that at least you led with 4. So you didn't get the notification on the banner. But then let's see, Enneagram type. Did you just, if you click on the tab on the left, the first one, Enneagram type. No notification there. Okay. And then go to Tritype. And did you relate to the 471?
To some extent, because it had 4 and 7 in it. I think I related more with 478, but I'm very confused because I relate with all 3 types.
Okay, you know, and what instinct of 4? I forget.
Sexual.
Sexual 4 is kind of 8-ish by some. It's like the emotional 8s.
Yes, for angry.
But it's 8s don't display that much, because then an 8 would lose power. But an 8 actually will first take on a sexual 4. But then if the 4 is really asserting, and a sexual 2 and sexual 4 have a tendency to display more their emotions. 3s kind of try to control it to be that ideal image. But 2 and 4, if they are hit with something that doesn't match them, they're inclined to, in a conflict, get bigger emotionally. Whereas 8s get bigger in certainty. In fact, the 8 kind of leans back, or if an 8's challenged, it's the attitude is, you sure you want to go there? You know, the 8 kind of gives the opportunity for someone to back off. Now, I'm not saying if the 8 is really upset that they don't get big emotionally and otherwise, but for the most part, no. Because does the person who gets emotionally reactive have the power? Maybe in an instant, but they lose the power overall. The emotions get in the way of clear thinking, of saying what you mean. Like 4s will, and 6s, when they get upset, they will say all kinds of things they don't mean. Whereas an 8 believes, hey, if the only time people are telling the truth is when they're mad. But that's not true, because 4s and 6s say things they don't mean. So the 8 has to learn, boy, that identification you have is that people tell the truth when they're angry is more talking about you, Mr. 8 or Ms. 8, not people in general. But we all make assumptions based on what we know, what we've learned, and we all identify with our own type until we learn about the Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or something. And we think, wait a minute, why hasn't that person learned to be orderly and methodical? That's what a 1 will think. Oh, you just haven't learned that yet. You need to learn that. An 8 might say, what? You're still afraid? You know, didn't you learn yet how not to show your fear? Well, it's not the 8 type. But like the 4-6-8 is going to show their fear, because that 6 and 4 are going to naturally have doubt of self and others.
And what about the 4, 7, 8?
The 4, 7, 8 hides their fear. They're kind of like the 4, 7, 9, but the punch is there. It's just like years ago, someone called me. She was really impressed the way I handled conflict in business. And she said, "Oh, you're like the velvet dart." And I thought, what are you saying? That I send darts at people? She said, "No, I just don't know how to describe it. But you can basically just dress someone down and put them in their place without ever saying anything technically wrong. But it's very clear that they've crossed a boundary or done something that is not okay." And that is the nature of the way 4, 7, 8 does it. You're going to get it. You're going to hear what is not okay. But the 4, 7, 8, that 7 in there comes in and wants it smoother.
More tactful.
Yeah. But they still have to learn. If you lead with 8, you still have to learn.
Right.
Now, you show a lot of expressions like the 6. What made you choose 7 over 6?
I've never actually related with 6, really at all. Their discomfort or fear. Honestly, this was a strange result for me because usually I get 4, 7, 8 or 7, 4, 8.
But this is just a test, and when you usually get the 4, 7, 8, that's another test, right?
No, it was the same test. I took it again.
Oh, why'd you take it again?
Because you said you had updated it, and I
Great.
thought it'd be good.
Great. And what'd you come out the first time?
7, 4, 8.
Okay, see, that's something a 6 does. Believe it or not.
I relate with the 6.
How could you have 7 one time and 4 another? They're opposites.
Yeah, that's the thing is I relate the most with 4, 7s, and 8s, and it's very weird.
But usually you'll have the same every time you're tested.
Right.
The 6 with the 7 wing will choose 7. And if they have 4 in the Tritype, they will choose the 4 card. So let's see your instincts.
Sure.
And sexual. Okay, let me see the order of the cards you chose. All right.
Just let me know when you want to scroll more.
Yeah, that's very good. So 17 sexual, 12 social. Okay. 7 self-preserving. Now go back up to the tabs and click on any spreads. So that special note, let's see why it says that, because it doesn't know what you took last time. Right? It has no idea, because this is only on this test. But if you look at the very top, you did choose the 4 card, but remember I said that guy's a 6. So I'm wondering what you'll do when I move him. I may have to leave him for a while, but
Well,
anyhow.
That's the funny thing. When you mentioned that you thought there was something wrong with the card, I immediately thought it was the man, because that was the one thing that bothered me about the card.
The guy?
Yes.
How about the words?
The words seemed perfect. It was just the guy didn't seem melancholy. He just seemed anxious.
Yeah. Thank you. But when you could have chosen the 4 card on the other side, you chose 7. Why?
I actually don't know.
It's interesting. It's noteworthy. Now,
Yeah.
you did have the 7 as your second choice in the first column, and you had 2 as your third choice. And on the right, you had the 7 and then the 4 and the 3. Now, what's missing that's very important is you have no gut types. And a lot of times, if someone doesn't have a center represented in the Enneagram spread, the 2 times they took the test of 9, 2 different sets of 9 cards, it means they're, in this case, a heartful person. But coming from your gut is not what you identify with, or you would have chosen a gut card. if someone has a bunch of heart cards, like 4 different heart cards, then they're heartful. If they have no heart cards, then they're more gutsy or intellectual. You see what I'm saying? I should probably add that.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have that in one of my tests. It's just the poor programmer. It's just, okay, you wanted to do what now? So I want all of it for you guys to make it easier, or so you can understand why I might think this way. Even if you are a 4, I would hypothetically think 6 is there somewhere. Whether your 7 has a 6 wing or you have a 6 with a 7 wing instead of a 7, it's worth looking at. You do not have to have a 6 showing anywhere. It's looking at the fact you had 2 different answers. Now let's see in Tritype what you chose. Whoops. Aren't we in any spreads?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to look at Tritype.
No, I want to, sorry, scroll down because this is
I see. Sorry.
So you did choose the 4, then the 7, and the 1. There was no 8 card in your
right, which makes no sense.
First 6 cards, and there's no 8 card here, but you had to choose a gut card for this one. And when we look at show answers, we'll see if you chose 8 one time and 1 another. But your statements were, you chose, hold on, I'm an assertive and protective person. So you chose the 8 answers, not the 4. Your 4 is second. Now, when this happens, it could
I think that was a mistake, actually. I did mean 2 to be first.
Okay, that's important.
Okay.
So now scroll down. Let me see your choice. And do you think you are the sexual self-pres?
I definitely think I'm the sexual self-pres.
Okay, then
I've gotten that consistently.
Let me just see what you chose in your strongest desire. Since closeness, do the next 3. Then you had social. That makes sense. You had the sexual, then the social. Very good. The sexual, then the social. The next set. Sexual and social. And then you have social, sexual. And we could always have one that's different. And then you have sexual, self-pres. And that's why I like to ask, because in those, I've done different versions of those 3 many times, and maybe the question's too compound to give like the best answer. I've played with it different ways. Okay, great. Now go to show answers. Let's see your words. Optimistic. Whoops.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the first adjective is honest and vulnerable. What do you mean by honest?
Just being frank about who I am and what I feel, or what I think about other people, or what I think about a situation.
You're not going to like this, but that's also 6.
Oh, really?
Especially with vulnerable. Now, 4s are vulnerable, but they're not going to choose it as one of their 5 words, especially that kind of the honest but vulnerable, because that's like yin yang. It's showing you both. Now, optimistic.
That's like my 7 coming in.
Yeah, it would imply 6 with a 7 wing. If you don't have 3 anywhere, then it's 6 with a 7 wing, because the most optimistic type is actually the 3. But the most enthusiastic and optimistic is the 7 or 2. You have to see the cluster of words. Now, what's your definition of thoughtful? Because that's what 6s use.
That's so interesting. Mostly just wanting to have deep conversations with people about their emotions or philosophy or psychology, not wanting to stay on the surface.
So this is important. You didn't choose the word deep.
Yeah.
But the thoughtful is one of those words where you really have to ask the definition, because some people, especially where English is a second language, they choose thoughtful, meaning they have a lot of thoughts. So they're really talking about six. And so you need to know what kind of thoughts they're having. And we just have way, way too many adjectives for other cultures, because we're
Right.
a country of immigrants. So we picked up words from all the different groups that have come to the US over the many years that we've been around. So the thoughtful is usually what two say it too, but sixes say. And that, in fact, that's one of the words I just added that you don't know about, onto that 6 card with the guy that looks anxious. So
that's really interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how you come out when I move them, but just open up the possibility. You don't have to be a 6, but it's like 4s are more raw than vulnerable. If it's the lead type, they expect to be vulnerable, just like the 8 expects to have power and impact. Well, we might say on something like this that we're powerful, but we're not going to say powerful vulnerable, powerful weak, because it's like, oh, no. Weak is out of our, no, can't have weak. Denial works. So with the 4, you expect to be vulnerable. So it'd be good to think about other words you relate to as vulnerable.
Okay.
And what vulnerable means to you. Yeah. Say what vulnerable means to you.
Okay. Being honest about how I feel, and not putting a face on, like not pretending to be something else.
So you never pretend to be something else?
I feel like we all do to some extent, but most of the time, if I do, it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And in oftentimes situations, if I feel like someone expects me to be someone else, I'll purposely be more of myself to see how they react.
That's 6. You're just doing a great job of talking about 6.
So is that a 6? I would say that as an 8.
It's the sexual 6. So this probably is throwing you off. So the 6 knows they're wearing a mask, but just to see what people will do is very much what a 6 does. 4s just, they might hide something that they feel is shameful about themselves, but there's kind of an edgy sort of passion for protest, whereas the sexual 6 has an edgy, like, I can be weak, but I can be tough when I need to be. There's pushy surrender is
right.
the description of the dichotomy within 6. That was part of the original training, not the original, but when Echazo evolved, because you're pushing, but then if you're met with pushback, usually the 6 will backpedal just a little to not be in a situation where they could get in trouble with someone or be at odds with someone. So what happens to you when you make a mistake? What happens? What do you?
Oh, that feels like a very broad question. I mean, I feel like it would.
Yeah, it is. But what you say will be different than someone else.
Sorry, do you mind repeating that?
Yeah. What do you feel when you make a mistake? What is your irrational fear or concern?
Oh.
Just go the crazy idea. Not that you always feel this, but like, what are you afraid will happen if you make a mistake?
Generally, I just feel like a ton of remorse, like a ton of regret. And I just replay the situation over and over again. Think about how I could have done it differently. And generally, I just feel a lot of, like, I guess you could say shame, or regret or remorse. And I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, you're saying like a 6 with 4 in the Tritype. So, but you don't know, I've done so much research, you wouldn't know that. And I haven't published it in all the books, these variables. So
Yeah.
it's hard. You wouldn't know it. But I would, 35 years ago, I would have thought of you as a 4 also, by the way. But I would have noticed that you show all your emotion. When you look up, when you look out, you cock your head, you do all the gestures of 6.
Wow. I thought that'd be a 4 thing. Like, to be
No,
so expressive.
The 4 is it's intense. It's consistent.
Okay.
Whereas the 6, remember I said, is the most emotionally complex.
Right.
So that's what you're talking about. You're shifting as I'm talking to you.
Right.
And the 6 is meant to do that, by the way. So it's really hard for 6s but I had to put that notification in there to give 6s half a chance of discovering their 6 and not go another 10 years.
Right.
With thinking they're another type. Just to open your mind.
The odd thing is when I've taken test, 6 is often my last results.
Absolutely.
So weird.
Yeah, the counterphobic 6 would have it last. Just like the 8 can't do weak.
Right.
That's what is in my denial. In the counterphobic 6's denial is type 6. The fear of type 6.
That is so true. That's like the one type I'm like, oh, I'm not a 6. I can't be a 6.
But why? Just guess. Why wouldn't you want to be a 6?
Well, part of it is I just have never related to the description and read it, generally speaking. The other reason is I've known them as being the most common type, and I guess I didn't want to be that.
They're not the common type.
They're not?
No, the 9 is.
Oh, okay. Or one of them.
You need more people to get along, to go along. And then you need people willing to work hard to, at street level, making things happen. And then you need people that are initiating how to do things and do it more efficiently and better, which is the 3. And then the hexad types you can't have as many of those. They're just variations on the main type anyhow.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's an interesting way of deciding that you couldn't be a 6.
Yeah. I've never really related with like the groundedness and the practicality of the 6. But then I've heard that 6s are very versatile. So
yeah, who said 6s are grounded? They usually don't choose gut type.
No, I probably based it on some knockoff Enneagram test that didn't know what they were talking about.
And I understand that. And tests can only do so much, right? You still have to see what's true or not true, which is why I programmed these variables in for the different types. But just your descriptions, it's like a 4 wouldn't not choose 6 because it's the most common. They wouldn't know it was the most common. That would have to come from a message board or someone saying that it's actually inaccurate. You see what I'm saying? You wouldn't, there's nothing in the type description that says 6 is the most common type. So you wouldn't be able to accept it or reject it unless you saw it someplace.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Do you remember, was it on a message board or
I read it somewhere.
Facebook group? Yeah. So that makes total sense. And if you identify with being unique, like under your desire, well, let's go back to your strength. You want to get to the truth of things. That's 6. Share yourself with others. That's sexual.
Right.
But it also implies the social because you're saying others.
Yeah.
You didn't say share yourself with an intimate. You said others. And assertively identify untruth and experience honesty and vulnerability with others. Okay. Going after identifying untruth is the job of the 6. It's what 6s are meant to do. Notice inconsistencies.
Oh my goodness.
Challenge people do you notice inconsistencies?
Oh yes, all the time. I'm like, that was a contradiction. What are you talking about?
Hey, that's 6. In fact, I'll even get it on the card somehow.
This is fascinating.
Because you guys are just like my beloved sixes. I want to help you find your types. But it's like eights just automatically know what the motivation of someone would be and say, no, that guy's going after this. Whereas the six says, wait a minute, that's not what he said last time. Wait, that's not true. But do you automatically tell that person they're not true? What they're saying is not true? Or do you go talk to other people? Have you noticed this person not really telling the truth? Did you think that was true?
I generally tell people straight up, but that doesn't make sense. You said something earlier that doesn't line up.
Okay, line up and make sense. Now, I love that you said make sense, because that is like mental words, that you're using descriptive words for head type, because you're calculating.
Yes.
And 5, 6, and 7 all calculate.
Right.
And the sexual 6 will always think they're a 4. It's one of the, or a 2. They usually do not think they're 6. Remember, they don't want to be 6 because they go into things. Whatever bothers them, they go into it. But based on experience, what were you like as a little girl?
I was like a very, very stereotypical 7. Like very bubbly, very extroverted, flitted about, had lots of activities. I had a very idyllic childhood. I have lovely parents.
That's wonderful, actually. Because then it brings out the best of the type, and it gives 6 the confidence to challenge things. But 4s generally don't say that. You have really great parents.
That's what I struggle with the Enneagram, is the childhood description, because I have such a happy home life. So I'm like, I don't have that trauma.
And that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
I will tell you that ENFPs usually remember their childhood a little more positively than other types, and they're leprechauns and fairies. And like I had 2 sons that were ENFPs, and one was a 6 and one was an 8, or is an 8. And it just changes. Like my 8th son is so much like me, but he's got 6 in the Tritype, and he has ENFP, and I'm ENTP, and that's where we're just a little different. It's like the cards he gives me, and he'd kill me if he saw this, but they're the most beautiful cards about what a great mother I am. And I'm deeply touched by it, but I don't think I'd say that to someone. I might feel it, but he goes, well, Mom, it's true. Why wouldn't I say it? No problem.
Yeah.
But now he says, I know you're going to roll your eyes at this, and then he'll say it. But it's like there's an archetype with the counterphobic 6, because that's sexual 6 predominantly, but you're sexual social, very close actually. And the in fact, in a way you might be social sexual. It'd be worth just double checking. But when you have the sexual 6 and the sexual 4, then whatever your gut type is sexual also. So that came as a part of my my early research too, is that not only was the belief that you had one instinct, but that it didn't apply to anything else. And I hoped for this beautiful pattern where you would be a sexual 6 and a self-pres 4 and a social 1, something of that nature. Wouldn't that be elegant? But nope. No. The instinct is so dominant that your wings would be sexual, your lines of connection would be sexual, and your all the types in your Tritype you have to consider. So if you get a little, wait, I don't relate to sexual 1, but I do relate to sexual 8, then you're getting closer to, and I am re-releasing my instincts book. There were just so many things I didn't have there, like identification, so many things I've been teaching for years that I didn't put in. And that should be out, I keep saying, in the next month. Hopefully, if nothing else goes wrong or I'm not doing a major project like this, it will be out, but you'll be notified. The other thing you said is you can be rather self-absorbed and too introspective, not caring for others. Give me an example of that selfishness.
Sure. I will have had something relatively minor happen in my life. I'll start analyzing it. I'll be trying to talk to my mom. My mom's trying to, get her work done, and she's been listening for 2 hours, and I keep talking about myself, and I'm not noticing that she's physically exhausted, and I'm not caring for her.
Yeah,
that's more like teenage problem, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. How old are you?
I'm 17.
Yeah. I mean, you're still going to learn the strength of your tritype and your dominant type, and really express it confidently from about 16 to 25. And then about that time, it starts to turn inward on us. We start to see the problems of whatever gets us what we want also takes away what we want if we don't learn both sides of our type. So managing things, taking charge, being able to execute things and get them done got me a promotion, but it also got me the feedback I needed to take management training classes at the same time. And that's, many have already heard that story, but it's so true because I was trying to respect everybody's time for an event. And so I'd be really direct. Now move that there, put that there, get that person. It's just like taking charge. And I didn't tell each group, oh yeah, we need to get that done because the people from advertising will be here at 3, or the people from whatever will be. And I didn't involve people in why I was doing things. So they're like, yeah, she's pretty, commando, telling us exactly what we need to do. She's very commanding, which means it got done, but it would take them a couple days before they realized I was just as protective of them and their time. And they'd eventually hear me say that, but I wouldn't start out that way. I had to learn that in a management training class to tell people why I was doing things. It was like, hey, you hired me to get things done. Isn't that what I'm doing? Yeah, but you have to do things politically right. So 6, 8, and 4 have to all learn that. The political implications of things. So I had to learn it. You have to learn it.
Yes,
now, having a positive childhood increases your bubbliness. And it's usually the social 6 that will say bubbly, and the 2.
Huh. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know you don't know this. So.
I'm like, whoa. It's fascinating.
So it's not so much, we could be confusing attachment theory with your type 2, because people that are positively identified, if you really did have a great childhood and you felt mirrored and you felt securely attached to parents, you don't need affirmation to the same degree or reassurance to the same degree as someone where it was inconsistent attachment and they feel like they have to do more or they have to get your attention. But all kids want their parents' attention, let's face it, and the attention of their friends. No question. It's like, so then you have thoughtful, what we talk, and intelligent. What does intelligent mean to you?
Being logical, rational, just being able to, I guess you could say, also be consistent. So you asked what people describe you as, so I'm imagining that my friends are saying is also like the type of.
No, I didn't.
No?
This was you describing yourself.
Oh, I was basing that on what people told me.
The only one that's how other people see you is the last one.
I see. Okay. Well, I gave you the descriptions and I would think of that for myself as well.
Yeah. So, and you're not going to like this, but the 6s always think of what people tell them. Well, people tell me I'm this or that. 9s do it as well. But again, it's the identification with others. Whereas the 4, the minute someone's told them what they are, they don't like it. They want to refine it and be something else. Maybe if it's something they like they love the word accomplished, and they're actually the only type that's used the word accomplished so far. Now that I say that, other people are going to use it, but before anyone knew the results of any of these inquiries, it was the 4s. And accomplished means that you didn't just achieve something ordinary. To be accomplished means in some way it's different and extraordinary. Now, I didn't think of accomplished that way, but when I started interviewing the 4s, they did.
Wow.
And the minute I had 3 people say the same thing, and it wasn't something taught in the Enneagram world, I knew it was meaningful. Were they mistyped, or was there something I needed to learn about the type itself? And usually it's something I need to learn about the types themselves. Now, with the studies that I've done, I've always asked what your type is, how long you've known your type, and I also ask how certain you are of your type. And you were certain of your type.
No. I felt like I was a 4 because I relate with the motivation the most, but I was stuck between 4, 7, and 8.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a matter of correcting the 7 to a to a 6 with a 7 wing.
Right.
Okay, so but the 1 came in there as a variable. And we can look at that in just one second. We have just enough time. But the, what was I saying? Where was I? 4s like to say intellectual because it's more than intelligent. But did you do really well in school and get good grades and stuff?
I do. And I do like to use the word intellectual. I did kind of rush through this test because I was listening to you, so I might have used intellectual another time.
Usually 6s use the word smart because smart means it's something you can measure by grades, but you're not going to be targeted. Whereas, again, 6s with 4 in the Tritype, it just flavors that 6 in a very exclusive way, it just shapes it differently. Okay, so the blue is the most common color for 6. Do you have blue eyes?
I do.
That's another reason, because we're always told we should wear the color that we look good in our eye color.
Yes.
A cross. And what do you like about the cross?
I'm a Christian, and I couldn't think of a symbol, so it's very good.
Well, it's very good. But finding what someone means by their symbol is important. And then what do you like about the fox?
Honestly, I didn't understand your purpose for these questions, so I just wrote down because I like foxes.
This purpose is to give you something that'll make you have to come from yourself. So it's very annoying. It's deliberately vague just to come up with something. A lot of times people say, well, I couldn't put anything negative because I didn't know where this test was going, how it was going to be used. And even if I were to say it's confidential, the 6s still don't really trust it. So they might modify words, but what they don't know is their modifications are still indicative of these 9 types simply because I had so many. If I didn't have so many, I would not be saying all this, truly.
Right.
And this is why I always include the Enneagram questionnaire. And that was a disagreement with True Self, is they go, oh, that's not important. Well, actually it is, because people have no way of checking their words with their choice. So there are a lot of people that are mistyped in that True Self test, not because of the cards so much. It's that it doesn't have the EQ, I call it, which is the Enneagram questionnaire. And the cards were not delivered the way I intended. So, and there's a point system assigned to it that I didn't create the cards for. So if you had a card that was a second choice all the way through, it becomes your number one card.
Oh,
And I never intended that. So a lot of people are off on that. But they, at the time, they didn't care because they said, well, as long as they think they have a type. I go, no, but if we're going to give them how to work with their type and they haven't typed correctly, it's just going to make them lose interest.
Right.
All right. Wanting to look artistic. Are you naturally artistic?
I'm a writer.
Okay. 4s and 6s are writers.
Okay.
In fact, the most common type to be a writer
is a 6. It's not a 4. Oh my goodness.
Especially for television and movies, because they're always proposing the worst scenario or the romantic comedy or the when someone's in doubt. It's just perfect to always have a 6. And there's always the buddy 6. If you think of any movie, it's just an archetype you need. But 6s are really, because they're intellectual, smart, they're really good at writing scenarios because they've thought of everything. Now, there are also 7s, all 9 types. I'm not saying that there aren't, but if we were to say the most common type, 6s.
Wow. I had no idea.
The other thing is the way Hollywood works, so I'm going to separate Hollywood out from magazines, is that they work with their teams. Like a director has the people they like working with. And then each person under there, the lighting director or any kind of director, has their team of people. So whatever movie they work on, they bring the same people. Wouldn't you? The people you knew. So the director or the producer will choose the screenwriter that they like the best. And there's a team effect that's essential. And it's hard to get in because of that team effect. You have to know somebody. It really is who you know. And the same thing happens with television shows. And even in a way now more so, because television shows are eclipsing the movies, because you can really unpack a character.
Absolutely.
Would you see yourself as a woe is me character or as the person that overcomes their fears?
I don't see myself as a woe is me person.
So if you were to write about yourself as a character, would you be someone that didn't act because you were feeling misunderstood, and yet you don't really want people to understand you because they can't possibly understand you because they're not you?
No, because I really want people to understand me.
That's the difference between a 4 and 6. 4s want to be understood, but they never want someone to say, I understand.
No, and I want people to say, I understand.
Because that's reassurance. And the 4s, the minute someone says, I understand, they say, but you need to ask me. You can't possibly understand because you're not me. And what 4s really want is questions like, tell me more about that.
Well, I like that too.
They never, see, because you have 4 in the Tritype. But they never want people to say, oh, I understand, because I have experienced this, this, and this. That's just like, really makes the 4s very upset, because then you're not listening to the 4. But 6s do that because they're letting you know, hey, I get where you're coming from. I understand you. So each center brings a gift. And the head center is I understand. And the gut center is I sense what's going on with you. I have a gut sense of it. And the heart center is I feel it. My heart contracts and expands when I feel things. So it's just a little different. And we use all 3. It's just the order.
So it sounds like I'm actually dominant head and not heart.
Yeah.
Because my most common phrase whenever I talk to people is I understand. Like, I know.
And that's what we love about 6s, actually. They're very understanding. Let's see. Impressive. That's good. Put together. Sophisticated. Yeah, it's, believe it or not, it's the artistic is more the sexual. The put together is more social.
Okay.
It's so, and the others are 6 of one, half a dozen the other. They can go both ways.
I think I have a 3 wing, which might be part of
Okay, that would make sense with the impressive, but eights want to be impressive too, so that's why I'm listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to feel appreciated, admired, and loved. So there's the admiration center, which is the heart types. They want admiration,
Yes.
and the twos want to be appreciated. Everybody wants to be loved.
Right.
That's why love is not on any of the cards. I'm afraid of being rejected or thought of as strange. See, that's another one there. No one wants to be rejected, but the fact that you're saying it speaks often to the sexual and social
Yes.
combination. But you don't want anyone to think of you as strange is very much 6. Because maybe the
Right.
4s being different is strange.
Right. Because I don't mean to interrupt you, but I remember someone told me that I wanted to be unique, but I wanted to be liked and appreciated for that, rather than someone who wants to be unique and doesn't care what other people think about it. Right.
That's 4. And someone with 8 in the Tritype.
Right.
You put those two together and they don't have social, or if they're antisocial, then they don't care.
Right.
It's not like they want to elicit people being mean to them either. No
Right.
type is. I say a lot of things in absolutes, but just
Right.
temper that in your mind, because I just what I do. So I guess my question, so you're not saying you need to be confident. You're saying you are confident, creative, and visionary. You Okay, here's the 6. I dress to make people think I'm confident.
Because I don't feel confident inside at all.
See, yeah, that's great.
I'm glad this is so clear to you, because it wasn't clear to me.
It's not clear to anybody. Unless you've taken classes with me, you don't realize that acting in some way or dressing to be confident or people to think you're confident is the head center, because you're
Right.
now a heart type might do that, or a gut type might do that,
Like a 3.
down. What people will write down on these questionnaires is more important, because everyone edits out things. No one puts their raw answers. We all are socialized to some degree. And we don't want to look bad. Naturally, it's human. But then again, there's your word, smart and bubbly.
Huh. Yeah.
That's the 6. And the most commonly it's the social 6, but you could be sexual social.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly see the cards you chose, and you can go pretty fast on that.
Okay.
So you chose this more sexual of the 2. This one could go either way. The 7s. I'll go back to the 7s. I want to see which one you didn't choose. Oh, kind of the bubbly, upbeat one. That's interesting.
Huh. They all seem bubbly to me.
Yeah, in a way they are. So now, yeah, I didn't put bubbly on any, because both social 6, 2, and some 7s with 2 in the Tritype can choose the word bubbly. So I just didn't. It's so hard narrowing down words that are not going to activate something else. Okay, let's see your 5s. What did you put as your 3rd choice? Yeah, the emotionally detached one. Yep. So there's the kind of the provocative 8 card, the kind of the one who is intimidating.
Yes.
And maybe I should have intimidating instead of forceful. But forceful is on there to kick off the willful 6s. Because I used to have willful, and then the 6s would say, yeah, I overcome and I will myself to be a certain way. And I used to have, in the very, very beginning, the Hulk. And the 8s like the Hulk because they thought they were always the Hulk. 6s like the Hulk because they go from being mild-mannered they're getting along with people until they're mad, and then they get bid.
Huh. Well, that's the funny thing is in that description, I relate more with the 8. I think people tend to think of myself as relatively like a little bit aggressive, which is unfortunate, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, if you have 8, you would be a little aggressive, but so is the 6, the counterphobic 6. Yeah.
I know it's getting a little late, but do you mind briefly explaining to me what the counterphobic 6 is? Because I don't know exactly.
The counterphobic 6 denies fear.
Okay.
As a motivator. But if they look at when they were a little child, they can usually see that they either held on to their parents' hand or wanted to make sure they were safe. And then they go through puberty. Puberty gives a really important change to the 6, and they end up having more confidence. And I'm saying at the other end of puberty, not the beginning, when people are ahead of you in terms of puberty. But once you're self-possessed with your puberty, the 6 is more kind of the yin is more yang, that opposition, that having both, seeing the other point of view, not all points of view, that's 9, but seeing the other point of view and commenting what wasn't stated or correcting someone over and over again is more the job of the 6. Now the 1 will correct you, but like the 6 is afraid that if they make a mistake, they'll be kind of vulnerable in some way. They go to worst case scenario of everything that can go wrong, and that's why they feel remorse and they try to make it better. And 6s either don't know how to say they're sorry, or they say sorry a lot. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, so the counterphobic 6 is just the 6 that denies their fear. They've learned to feel self-possessed. They have things going for them. They're smart or attractive or personable, and they feel comfortable saying what they think. So just clarify your gut type.
Okay.
That would, whether it's the 1 or the 8. And if it's the 8, then it'd be almost impossible for you not to say what you think.
Right. So 4, 6, 8, or another order.
Or 4, 6, 1. 4, 6, 1 is uber critical of themselves. And 4, 6, 8 is the one who says the emperor has no clothes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for sorting out my brain. All right. Take care.
Nice to see you.